The bulge started on December 16th, 1944. December 16th. And my brother's birthday was the 17th, and I got captured on the 18th. Now, it was a total surprise. And I had volunteered, I got a Bronze Star for volunteering to capture a German. So I joined a patrol, 2 other sergeants, myself. We joined and we crossed the river in rubber boats at about 2 o'clock in the morning and got to the German line, and we couldn't find any Germans. So the colonel was getting real mad, and the Germans discovered that we were on their side of the river. And so our company commander called for artillery to protect us. Well, that night they sent over another patrol to join us, and that day we captured a German. And that was a terrible thing because the Germans had stretched cables across the river because they were preparing to build a bridge so the German army could cross the bridge during the bulge. And sure as a world, we got our man, and he went, and the Germans had 2 50-gallon barrels that they would sit on and to go across the river. And one of our sergeants took the German prisoner on the first load. Then he came back, and I jumped on the second load, but it was starting to sink, and I can't swim. And so he got to the other side, and he kept yelling, I can't, I'm sinking. I'm going to try and get all the way across. Well, here I am. And we got all about 10 feet, and I made a flying dive off of the barrel and landed on a wet log. And I had gotten to the American side. Well, one of the sergeants took the wrong cable, and he was suspended out over the water. And he said, I can't swim, I can't swim. And he was loaded with hand grenades, a rifle, heavy boots, a belt of ammunition, so he went down quick. And they found him 25 miles downstream. So that bothered me. By that time, I was sick of war, and I vomited. I was so beat up and losing such a good friend. A day later, we were told that C Company, I was in A Company, and they said, C Company's in trouble, the Germans are attacking. So A Company, we had to go relieve C Company, hold off the Germans. And we were said, Germans, there are no Germans around. And we were one big foxhole about every 200 yards. And so the Germans just infiltrated right through, and they were behind us by a mile before we realized that we were surrounded. And the company took off, but me being a sergeant, I was going to guard the right flank. And so I took another man and dug in, and during the night, word came down, they're withdrawing. American Army was going to withdraw, and they didn't tell me. And here we were all alone. And bullets start flying through the trees. And we see, what, five Germans coming at us. And I said to this, he's just a young man, just a new recruit. I said, get up real slow and take a look. And he got down on his knees and big eyes, and he said, Sergeant, what do we do? And I said, well, you stay down and I'll surrender. And so I pulled out a white hanky and waved it. They were going past me. Waved it. I said, comrade, comrade. And they said, hands up, hands up. We knew words about them. We would say, kommen Sie aus, wir nicht schützen. Come out, we won't shoot. And they said, kommen Sie aus, kommen Sie aus. And so and they said, hands up. And I said, my hands are up. And then they came and said, English. And they said, no, Americans. Nine, English. And I said, no, Americans. And they said, Americans? And they started walking around as if I was a trophy. You know, Americans, they were fighting Americans. We were now captured prisoners. And on one march, I walked 90 miles. And then we got on a freight train, 40 and 8s, and there were 79 men in my car because I counted every one, and they were all officers. And I don't know, the Lord put me on that car because some of the other cars had 100 or more men in each car. You know, that's just prison. And I was young, and I was a moralizer. I would say to these guys, come on now, this is Germany. One of these days we're going to be liberated and we're going to eat well. And, you know, I'd turn around, walk backwards, and I'd yell at the guys, close it up, don't give up, don't give up. Well, there were 800 of us on that march, that second one, and we lost about 200 men on 85 miles. And they just pulled over the side and started crying. And, you know, they just cried. And I turned around, looked back, and a German farmer picked up this one kid that was crying. And the last we saw of him, he was taking him to his farmhouse. This German, he was friendly, you know. And in one prison, the Germans, the Nazis, the SS, turned the prison into a concentration camp. They were collecting Jews to take to Sweden, and Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, was with that group, and he wanted to prove to the Swedes that he was a friend of the Jews. See, because he had said, well, they claimed there were 7,000 Jews that passed us with their mouths wide open and caked blood, and this was in early April, and they were dressed in blue and white clothes, striped clothes, and hanging on to each other. And they begged me for a cigarette, and I said, nicht rauchen, I don't smoke. And they smiled at me. You know, the Jewish morale stayed high all the way through. They knew they were going to die maybe, but they never gave up, see. And one that asked me for a cigarette, he just turned his head up and as if, well, they haven't got us yet.